What if I told you that in the span of just 48 hours, the Los Angeles Lakers, one of the most legendary franchises in the history of American sports, completely blew up everything they had built and decided to start over? What if I told you that in the summer of 2026, the king walked out the door, the most wanted player on the planet slipped through their fingers, and yet somehow, the Lakers ended up exactly where they needed to be? This is the story of the most dramatic, most chaotic, most breathtaking offseason in Lakers history. And it's all real. Every single word of it. Sit down. Because this one is going to take a while. Let's go back. Let's go back to where this story really begins. Not in the summer, not at the draft, but in the cold February of 2026, inside a quiet Milwaukee arena, where a giant man was sitting with a very big decision weighing on his heart. His name is Giannis Antetokounmpo. And if you don't know who Giannis is, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a kid who grew up in the streets of Athens, Greece, the son of Nigerian immigrants who came to Europe searching for a better life. Imagine that kid selling trinkets on the streets at 5 in the morning just so his family could eat breakfast. Imagine him picking up a basketball almost by accident, growing 6 inches seemingly overnight, and then one day getting on a plane and flying to America, to a city called Milwaukee, where nobody thought he'd amount to much. And then imagine him becoming the best player in the entire world. 2 MVP awards. An NBA championship in 2021 when he absolutely demolished the Phoenix Suns and averaged over 35 points per game in the finals. A Defensive Player of the Year. An All-Star almost every single year. The man they called the Greek Freak, because watching him move was like watching something that shouldn't be possible. 6'11", 240 pounds. Arms that seemed to stretch from one sideline to the other. A man who could catch a pass at half court and dunk it before a defender even had time to blink. Giannis was the kind of player who made you stop what you were doing, sit down, and just watch. But by February of 2026, something had changed. The Milwaukee Bucks, the team that had built everything around him, the team he had given the best years of his life to, were struggling. They brought in Miles Turner the previous summer to try to fix things. They restructured. They reshuffled. And it wasn't working. The Bucks missed the playoffs. Think about what that means. A team built around arguably the best player alive, missing the playoffs. And Giannis, who had a player option in his contract worth nearly $63 million for the 2027-28 season, was watching all of this. Thinking. Processing. And the entire NBA world was watching him think. Because if Giannis opted out of that contract, if he decided he wanted to leave, every single team in the league was going to come calling. This was going to be the biggest free agent saga since LeBron James decided he was taking his talents to South Beach back in 2010. This was bigger, arguably, because Giannis was younger. Giannis was only 31. He had years of prime basketball left. Whoever got him wasn't just getting a superstar. They were getting a dynasty. And the Los Angeles Lakers? Oh, they wanted him bad. Let me tell you about the Lakers going into the 2026 offseason. Because to understand just how crazy this whole story is, you need to understand where they were coming from. The Lakers had just completed one of the strangest seasons in recent memory. They had Luka Dončić, yes, that Luka Dončić, the wizard from Slovenia who could make the ball do things that defied physics, but Luka had missed significant time with injury. They had LeBron James, the greatest basketball player who ever lived, now 41 years old and still somehow, impossibly, still doing it. Still putting up 20 points, 7 assists, and 7 rebounds a night. Still waging war on the concept of aging itself. The Lakers finished the regular season as the 4th seed in the Western Conference. They knocked off the Houston Rockets in the first round in a series where LeBron was absolutely magnificent, and then they ran into the Oklahoma City Thunder in the second round. The Thunder were built like a wall. Young, fast, and ferocious. They swept the Lakers out of the playoffs, for games to 0, like they were barely even trying. It stung. But here's the thing. Even in that pain, even in that disappointment, there was something the Lakers could feel. Something building. Because with Luka Dončić as the foundation, with LeBron still somehow producing, and with the summer coming, there was a real sense that something big was possible. The Lakers went into the offseason with $52 million in salary cap space. That is a massive number. That is a number that makes general managers sit up straight. That is the kind of number that can change everything. And the question on everyone's lips was simple. What are they going to do with it? Are they going to chase Giannis? Now here's where the story gets complicated. And beautiful. And heartbreaking. And then beautiful again. The Giannis saga had been building for months. Ever since the Bucks missed the playoffs, the rumor mill had been absolutely churning. Every team with cap space, every team with young players to offer, every team with championship ambitions, they were all lining up. And the Lakers were right there in line. Reports started coming out in May and June. The Lakers had expressed interest in Giannis at the trade deadline. That much was confirmed. There had been whispers about an Austin Reeves-centered trade package. Austin Reeves, for those who don't know him well, is one of the most beloved Lakers players in recent memory. The kid from Newark, Arkansas who walked on at college, went undrafted, and clawed his way to becoming one of the best shooting guards in the entire NBA. The fans adored him. His teammates adored him. And yet the Lakers were reportedly willing, to put him in a trade package for Giannis. But here's the thing that Luka Dončić reportedly did. Luka, who was not even playing at the time because of injury, reportedly told the Lakers organization in no uncertain terms, "Do not trade Austin Reeves. I don't want to do this without him. He's my guy. Don't do it." Think about that for a second. A superstar player, a guy who had every right to demand the moon and the stars, standing up and saying, "No, don't trade my teammate. Keep him." That's the kind of thing that builds teams. That's the kind of thing that builds something real. So the Lakers didn't make a move at the deadline. Giannis stayed in Milwaukee. And everyone held their breath and waited for summer. June came. The draft came. And right before the draft, right as teams were making their final preparations and backroom deals, the bomb dropped. The Milwaukee Bucks traded Giannis Antetokounmpo to the Miami Heat. Not the Lakers. Not the Boston Celtics who had been rumored. Not any of the 5-team scenarios that basketball reporters had been mapping out on whiteboards for months. The Miami Heat. Milwaukee got Tyler Herro, Kel Ware, Jamie Jaquez Jr., Kaspers Jakushionis, and a mountain of draft picks, 3 first-rounders, a pick swap, and a second-rounder. It was a massive haul. The Bucks got everything they needed to start rebuilding. And Giannis? Giannis was going to South Beach. Going to join a Heat culture that had built champions before. Going to put on that red and black jersey. The reaction around the league was immediate. It was seismic. Social media practically broke. Basketball fans everywhere were asking the same question. What does this mean? For the Heat, now suddenly one of the scariest teams in basketball with a 2-time MVP in their lineup. For the rest of the Eastern Conference, which had to look at Miami and swallow hard. And for the Lakers, who had tried, who had wanted him, who had been right there at the front of the line but couldn't quite get to the head of it. For a moment, it felt like the Lakers had missed out. For a moment, it felt like the window had closed. But that moment didn't last long. Because something else was happening. Something that nobody quite saw coming. Or maybe everybody saw coming, but nobody wanted to say out loud. LeBron James was leaving. On a Tuesday, June 30th, 2026, the phone rang in the Lakers front office. And on the other end of that phone was Rich Paul, LeBron's agent, the CEO of Clutch Sports, one of the most powerful figures in basketball. And what Rich Paul said was simple. LeBron is moving on. LeBron James, the man who had worn the purple and gold for 8 seasons, who had won a championship for this franchise in 2020 in the strangest setting imaginable, a bubble in the Florida swamps during a global pandemic, who had broken Kareem Abdul-Jabbar's all-time scoring record in a Lakers uniform, who had chased records and history and legacy on those hardwood floors at Crypto.com Arena, was done. He was going to play his 24th season in the NBA. But it wasn't going to be in Los Angeles. The statement from Jeannie Buss, the Lakers team governor, was gracious and heartfelt. She called LeBron one of the greatest athletes in history. She thanked him for everything. She wished him well. And LeBron replied on social media, saying it was truly an honor to wear the purple and gold, hoping he'd made a few people proud. And just like that, the era was over. Close your eyes for a second and really feel what that meant. 8 years. 8 years of LeBron James carrying that franchise on his back. 8 years of the most famous basketball player on the planet waking up every morning in Los Angeles, going to practice, putting in the work, willing this team to compete night after night. He'd done it at 41 years old, scoring over 20 points a game during the regular season before the back problems slowed him down. He'd done it in the playoffs, carrying the Lakers past Houston when Luka was hurt. He had given everything. And now he was gone. The king had left the building. And for the Lakers, for a franchise that had lived and breathed star power for decades, Magic Johnson, Kareem, Shaq, Kobe, and then LeBron, this was a terrifying, clarifying moment. Who are we now? What comes next? What comes next is where Rob Pelinka, the Lakers' general manager, earns his paycheck. Because in the span of about 72 hours, what the Lakers front office did was remarkable. With LeBron out the door, with Giannis in Miami, with $52 million burning a hole in their cap sheet, they got to work. First, they made sure to keep the guy who mattered most, besides Luka. Austin Reaves. The man Luka had defended. The man who had turned down a trade to keep his teammate happy. Austin Reaves declined his $14.9 million player option and instead signed a brand new 4-year, $185 million contract with the Los Angeles Lakers. $185 million. That's not a contract. That's a statement. That's the Lakers saying in no uncertain terms, this is our guy. This is someone we build around. This is someone who belongs here in purple and gold. The deal includes a player option in the final year, giving Reaves flexibility down the road. But the message was clear. The Lakers had their backcourt. Luka Dončić and Austin Reaves. The wizard from Slovenia and the underdog from Arkansas. An unlikely pair that somehow made perfect sense. But a backcourt isn't a championship. You need more. You need size. You need a center who can protect the rim, who can grab rebounds, who can give Luka and Austin room to operate. And this is where the story takes the most surprising turn of all. Luka Dončić had made a request. He'd made it clear to the Lakers front office, get me an A-list center. Get me someone who can roll to the rim, finish lobs, protect the paint, and change the game defensively. Get me a real big man. And Rob Pelinka heard him. The Lakers had been quietly making inquiries about Walker Kessler, the 24-year-old center from the Utah Jazz, for years. Multiple times they'd reached out. Multiple times a deal hadn't come together. But this time was different. Walker Kessler is not a household name in the same way as Giannis or LeBron. But if you know basketball, really know it, you know exactly who he is. He stands 7 feet 2 inches tall. That alone should stop you in your tracks. 7'2". He walks into a room and the ceiling looks smaller. He runs in transition and it looks like watching a giraffe sprint, awkward and yet somehow breathtaking. But here's the thing about Walker Kessler. He is an absolute monster on the defensive end. In the season before his injury, he averaged 2.4 blocks per game. In the entire NBA, only Victor Wembanyama has averaged more blocks per game since Kessler entered the league. Only Wembanyama. That is not a small thing. Victor Wembanyama is widely considered one of the greatest defensive players who has ever touched a basketball. And Kessler is right behind him. He averaged over 12 rebounds a game. He led the entire NBA in offensive rebounds. He was an all-rookie team selection. He had played for Team USA at the FIBA World Cup. He was, in every meaningful sense of the word, the kind of center who changes what a team looks like defensively, who makes every opponent think twice before they drive to the paint. And Luka Dončić, who had studied film, who understood the game at a level most people can't even comprehend, who had told the Lakers exactly what he needed, Luka wanted this guy. The deal came together fast. The Lakers were acquiring Walker Kessler from the Utah Jazz. In return, Utah got 4 future draft assets, unprotected first-round picks in 2031 and 2033, and first-round pick swaps in 2028 and 2030. That is a steep price. That is the Lakers betting everything, mortgaging their future draft capital to get the center they needed right now. And then came the contract. Walker Kessler signed a 4-year, $130 million deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. With a player option in the 4th year. With a full trade kicker. Reporters wrote that Lakers GM Rob Pelinka had paid a very big price for Walker Kessler. And they were right. The price was enormous. The Lakers gave up nearly all of their future draft flexibility. They already owed picks to Memphis and Dallas from previous deals. They had no second-round picks until 2033. They were, in the most literal sense possible, all in. All in on Luka Dončić. All in on Austin Reeves. All in on Walker Kessler. A new Big Three. A new era. Not built on star power for the sake of star power. Not built on chasing the biggest name available. Built on fit. Built on what Luka needed. Built on what would actually work. But Pelinka wasn't done. Because you don't build a championship team with 3 players. You need depth. You need role players who know their job. You need guys who can shoot, guys who can defend, guys who can go out there and grind through 48 minutes of playoff basketball without blinking. So the Lakers went shopping. They signed Sandro Mamukelashvili, a 6'9" sharpshooter who had just come off a career year with the Toronto Raptors, earning 6th Man of the Year votes. He averaged over 11 points a game, shooting nearly 39% from 3 on the bench. The kind of forward who stretches the floor, who gives Luka room to drive, who makes defenses pay if they ignore him in the corner. 4 years, $52 million. They signed Quentin Grimes, a shooting guard who had played for multiple teams across his first 5 seasons but had found his footing in Philadelphia under Nick Nurse, averaging over 13 points a game in 75 appearances. A guy who could guard multiple positions, who could knock down big shots when the game was on the line. 4 years, $60 million. They signed Colin Sexton, a backup point guard with explosive athleticism and the kind of energy off the bench that coaches dream about. 2 years, $19 million. They also signed Zaire Williams on a 1-year minimum deal, adding another young wing to the rotation. In the span of about a week, the Lakers had completely remade their roster. They had gone from a team built around LeBron James and a sometimes healthy Luka Dončić to a team that had a clear identity, a clear structure, and a clear future. Luka runs the show. Reeves is his partner. Kessler protects the paint and gobbles up every missed shot in the vicinity. Mamukelashvili and Grimes shoot from the outside. Sexton provides energy and scoring off the bench. It's not the roster of a team chasing a player. It's the roster of a team that looked in the mirror, figured out exactly what it needed, and then went out and got it. Now let's pause here and really take stock of everything. Because what the Lakers did this summer, what they actually did, when you step back and look at it with clear eyes, is something that doesn't happen very often in professional sports. They let the biggest player in the market slip away to Miami. They lost their most famous and beloved star of the last decade in LeBron James. And instead of panicking, instead of throwing money at the flashiest available option, they built deliberately. They built for Luka. Think about Walker Kessler playing next to Luka Dončić. Think about what that looks like. Luka is one of the greatest passers in NBA history. He finds cutters. He reads defenses. He sees plays before they develop. And now he has a 7'2" rim runner who can catch lobs, who can set screens, who can protect everything behind the three-point line. The pick and roll between Dončić and Kessler is going to be one of the most terrifying things in the entire NBA next season. Teams are going to have to choose. Do you blitz Dončić and leave Kessler open for an easy dunk? Or do you stay home on Dončić and let him carve you apart? There is no good answer. And then you add Reeves on the wing, a guy who can shoot off the catch, who can create his own shot, who can defend, who can make the smart pass, who is fundamentally one of the most complete players in the game. Reeves doesn't need the ball to make an impact. He moves without it. He finds the right spot. He does the things that don't show up in the box score but that coaches and teammates notice immediately. This trio, Dončić, Reeves, Kessler, is built to compete. Not just to be good. Not just to make the playoffs. Built to compete for championships. And let's talk about what they're competing in. Because the Western Conference heading into the 2026-27 season is absolutely brutal. The Oklahoma City Thunder, the team that swept the Lakers out of the playoffs this past spring, are still right there. Young, hungry, stacked with talent. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander leading the way. They won the Western Conference Finals this year. They are the standard. The San Antonio Spurs, who actually won the Western Conference Finals over OKC and then made the NBA Finals against the New York Knicks, are coming back with their core intact. Victor Wembanyama. A deep, well-coached team. They are a genuine threat. The Golden State Warriors are going to be interesting too, depending on where LeBron lands. There were reports that the Warriors had assembled a pitch for a big four of LeBron, Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, who declined his player option, and Anthony Davis. If that comes together, the Western Conference gets even more loaded. Minnesota won the Western Conference semifinals this year before falling to San Antonio. Denver is still out there. Portland is building. The West is a war zone. But here's the thing about war zones, they're also where legends are made. The Lakers know this better than anyone. 17 championships. More banners in that rafters than any team can count without running out of fingers. This franchise has always lived in the fire. And now, with a new core and a clear direction, they're walking back into it with purpose. Now I want to talk about something that doesn't get discussed enough in all this roster shuffling and contract numbers and trade speculation. I want to talk about what this moment means for Luka Dončić specifically. Because the trade that brought Luka to Los Angeles in 2025 was already one of the most shocking moments in NBA history. Dallas Mavericks fans are still processing what happened. Luka Dončić, the player they drafted, the player they built around, the player they watched grow from a teenager into a certified superstar, was suddenly wearing purple and gold. The basketball world shook. And then LeBron James was on the same team. For a moment, the Lakers had the best player of his generation and the best player of the previous generation on the same roster. It was extraordinary. But it was also complicated. Because when you have two players of that magnitude, questions arise. About minutes. About the ball. About hierarchy. About who this team really belongs to. And that wasn't a knock on either of them. It was just the natural friction that comes with combining two enormous personalities and two enormous games on the same court. This summer changes all of that. This is now Luka's team. Completely and totally. No ambiguity. No shared spotlight. The franchise said so with its actions. They built the entire roster around what Luka asked for. They went out and got his center of choice. They kept his backcourt partner. They filled in the pieces to complement his game. They handed him the keys. Luka Dončić, who just turned 27, is now the face of the Los Angeles Lakers. In a city that has been the home of Magic Johnson, of Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, of Shaquille O'Neal, of Kobe Bryant, of LeBron James, the next name in that lineage is being handed to a kid from Ljubljana, Slovenia who grew up watching basketball on a TV screen and dreaming of this exact moment. The weight of that is enormous. And also, the opportunity is staggering. Because Luka is good enough. Let's be absolutely clear about that. In the brief stretches this past season when he was healthy and right, when the ball was in his hands and he was operating at full capacity, Luka was the best player in the world. Bar none. The handles. The vision. The footwork. The ability to get to the line, to hit pull-up threes off the dribble, to find a cutter nobody else saw. Luka at his best is something that comes along once in a generation. This upcoming season is going to be his coming out party. His official coronation as the guy in Los Angeles. And the basketball world is going to be watching. Let me tell you something else. Something about the nature of NBA dynasties that often gets lost in the noise of the moment. The teams that win championships are rarely the teams that have the most famous players. They're the teams that have the best players, and the right players. They're the teams built with intention, where every piece knows its role, where the stars complement each other rather than compete with each other. The 2001 Lakers didn't win because they had the flashiest lineup. They won because Shaq was unstoppable and Kobe was unguardable and Phil Jackson had built a system around that truth. The 2010 championship run was about trust and depth and the triangle offense and years of experience playing together. The 2016 Cleveland Cavaliers won because LeBron had Kyrie Irving next to him and a team that believed. The 2019 Toronto Raptors won because Kawhi Leonard was healthy and the roster around him was perfect for that moment. What I'm saying is this: the best teams aren't built in a single offseason. They're built through clarity. Through knowing exactly who you are and what you're trying to do. And what the Lakers have done this summer is establish that clarity. They are Luka's team. Walker Kessler is the anchor. Austin Reeves is the glue. And everything else is built to support that foundation. Is it going to be easy? Is there work to be done, games to be played, chemistry to be built, late-night film sessions and early morning shoot-arounds and the brutality of an 82-game regular season before the playoffs even begin? Absolutely. Walker Kessler missed almost the entire 2025-26 season with a shoulder injury. He needs to come back healthy and find his rhythm. Luka needs to stay on the floor. Because when he's healthy, this team is scary, but they need him healthy. The depth needs to gel. Mamikhalashvili needs to replicate what he did in Toronto. Grimes needs to hit shots when the game is on the line. Nothing is guaranteed. But the foundation? The foundation is real. The foundation is something to believe in. And what about LeBron? Where does the king land? As of right now, the basketball world is still waiting. The Cleveland Cavaliers have been reported as one of the frontrunners. The idea of LeBron going home, back to the city where he grew up, back to the franchise that he first played for, back to the place where he delivered one of the most miraculous championship comebacks in sports history in 2016, it's poetic. It would make the kind of storybook ending that Hollywood screenwriters couldn't dream up. The Miami Heat are also in the mix, but they've already got Giannis now. Could LeBron actually go back to South Beach and join Giannis on the Heat? That would be absolutely insane. In the best possible way. The Golden State Warriors want him. The Philadelphia 76ers are making their pitch. The Minnesota Timberwolves are reportedly pursuing him hard. LeBron James, at 41 years old, preparing for his 24th NBA season, is still the most recruited player in basketball. That alone tells you everything you need to know about the man. But wherever LeBron goes, that's his story now. That chapter with the Lakers is closed. In Los Angeles, a new chapter is beginning. Let's go back to the very beginning. Back to that question I asked you. What if I told you that in 48 hours, the Lakers blew up everything they had and started over? What if I told you they lost the biggest superstar on the market to Miami? That they said goodbye to the greatest player of his generation? That they restructured, remade, rebuilt from the ground up? You might think that sounds like a disaster. But look at what they have now. Really look at it. They have Luka Dončić, 27 years old, with his entire prime in front of him, with the ball and the freedom and the total trust of a franchise that has committed everything to his success. They have Austin Reeves, $185 million worth of commitment, a two-way player who Luka trusts completely, a guy who makes everyone around him better without ever asking for credit. They have Walker Kessler, the 7'2" defensive force who was Luka's personal request, who brings the shot blocking and rebounding and rim protection that this team desperately needed, who is only 24 years old and hasn't even reached his ceiling yet. They have Mamikhalashvili shooting it from deep. Grimes providing wing scoring. Sexton bringing energy off the bench. And they have direction. Purpose. Clarity. This is not a team that got lucky. This is not a team that stumbled into something good. This is a team that looked at a difficult situation, losing their most famous player, watching the most coveted free agent go to a rival, and responded with intelligence. With intentionality. With a plan. The NBA's new season is coming. And when those lights come on at Crypto.com Arena, when the purple and gold banners hang in the rafters and the crowd is on its feet and the music is playing and the introductions are being made, there is going to be a moment. A moment where Luka Dončić walks out onto that court and the crowd roars, and he looks around at this new team, this team built for him, this team that chose him completely and without reservation. And in that moment, you're going to understand something. The Los Angeles Lakers aren't grieving. They're not in transition. They're not hoping for the best. They're hunting. They've been to this place before. This franchise knows what it feels like to rebuild, to reset, to take stock of what you have and decide to go all in. They've done it with Magic, with Shaq, with Kobe, with LeBron, and now, with Luka. The torch has been passed. The new era has begun. And something tells me, something deep in the gut of anyone who has watched this team long enough to know what it looks like when the Lakers are serious, that this one is going to be worth watching. The Giannis dream didn't come true. LeBron said goodbye. And somehow, the Lakers ended up exactly where they needed to be. Building something real. Building something that lasts. Building it for Luka. This is the new era in Los Angeles. And it's just getting started. Stay close. Because this story, the real story, the one that's still being written right now, is going to be one for the ages. Let me take you somewhere else for a minute. Let me take you to a gym in the summer. Not Crypto.com Arena with its 20,000 seats and its championship banners. Just a gym. The kind of gym that smells like rubber and sweat and effort. The kind of gym where nobody is watching, where there are no cameras, where the only sound is sneakers squeaking on hardwood and a basketball bouncing and the rhythm of someone getting better one repetition at a time. That's where Luka Dončić spent his summers. That's where Walker Kessler is right now, rehabbing that shoulder, getting it back right, making sure that when the season starts, he is ready. Not just ready to play. Ready to dominate. Ready to be everything the Lakers are betting on him to be. Because here's what people sometimes forget when they talk about trades and contracts and cap space and all the machinery of building an NBA team. At the end of all of it, you have to play the games. You have to show up on a Tuesday night in November in a cold arena in Minnesota or Denver or Boston and compete. You have to be there in February when the schedule is grinding you down and your legs are tired and the travel has stacked up and you just need to find something inside yourself to keep going. That's the part nobody can plan. That's the part no front office can manufacture with a spreadsheet or a salary cap calculation. That part has to come from the players themselves. Walker Kessler has to come back healthy. This is the most important variable. The shoulder surgery that cost him essentially the entire 2025-26 season needs to be behind him. In the 5 games he played before going down with the injury, he averaged 14 points, over 10 rebounds, and nearly 2 blocks. In 5 games. That's the player the Lakers are betting on. When Kessler is right, he does something that is incredibly difficult to find in modern basketball. He protects the rim without fouling. He has a sense of timing, waiting until the exact moment to go up for the block rather than jumping early. He's disciplined. He's patient. And then, when the moment comes, he goes up and swallows the shot. Teams that have a dominant rim protector, teams that make opponents think twice before they drive into the paint, those teams are always competitive. Because defense travels. Defense shows up every single night regardless of how your offense is feeling. And if Walker Kessler is healthy, the Lakers are going to be one of the better defensive teams in the Western Conference next season. That changes everything. Now let me tell you about 17. 17 is the number of NBA championships the Los Angeles Lakers have won. 17 banners hanging in those rafters. When you walk into that arena, when you look up at those banners, when you read the names 1949, 1972, 1980, 1985, 1987, 1988, 2000, 2001, 2002, 2009, 2010, 2020, you are looking at decades of excellence. Of striving. Of winning and losing and coming back. The Lakers have never been a franchise that accepts rebuilding as a permanent state. They've always found a way to regroup, to reload, to find the next superstar. From Jerry West to Kareem to Magic to Shaq and Kobe to LeBron. And the question now is whether Luka Dončić can be the man who hangs championship number 18. He is good enough. Nobody who has watched him play at his best doubts that. The question is always about the pieces around him, about staying healthy, about the breaks that you need in a playoff run, about getting hot at the right moment, about the 1 or 2 plays in a close game that go your way instead of against you. The Lakers have positioned themselves to genuinely compete. Not just to be a playoff team, they were always going to be a playoff team with Luka Dončić. But to compete for a championship. One more thing before we close this out. Los Angeles is a city that has seen it all. A city of dreams and disappointments, of overnight success stories and crushing failures. But it also loves a comeback story. It loves a second act. It loves the moment when someone who was counted out comes back and proves everyone wrong. The Lakers, in a way, are in that position right now. They were swept out of the playoffs. They lost their biggest star. They didn't get the superstar they were chasing. And yet here they are, starting over with energy and purpose and a plan. When Luka Dončić takes that first dribble on opening night. When Walker Kessler sets that first screen and rolls to the rim. When Austin Reeves hits that first corner three and gives that quiet nod to the bench, like yeah, that's what we do. When all of that happens under those championship banners, something will crystallize. A new beginning. Not a transition. Not a rebuild. A new beginning. The Giannis dream didn't come true. LeBron said goodbye. And somehow, the Lakers ended up exactly where they needed to be. Building something real. Building something that lasts. Building it for Luka. Luka Dončić is the face of the Los Angeles Lakers now. In a city that has been home to Magic Johnson, to Kareem, to Shaq, to Kobe, to LeBron, the next name in that lineage belongs to a kid from Ljubljana, Slovenia who grew up dreaming of exactly this moment. Welcome to the new era. Welcome to Luka's Lakers. Let's see what they can do.